American Beauty wasn't just a suburban drama about midlife crisis. It was a razor-sharp cultural mirror, exposing the rot beneath America's white picket fences. What audiences didn't see were the explosive clashes between cast and crew, the studio battles over tone, and the dangerous lengths actors went to in order to capture authenticity. On set, friendships fractured, stunts went wrong, and creative visions collided. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on 20 weird facts about American Beauty. From dangerous behind-the-scenes experiments to the shocking truth about its symbolism, these revelations prove the film was anything but ordinary. And stay tuned until the very end, because the bonus fact will completely change the way you see the movie. Let's dive in. 1. The infamous plastic bag scene wasn't planned. The floating plastic bag isn't just iconic, it was improvised. Cinematographer Conrad Hall and director Sam Mendes spotted a bag drifting across a parking lot during downtime. The moment struck them as poetic chaos, so they built it into the film as Ricky's obsession. Hall insisted on using real handheld footage shot by a second-unit cameraman rather than creating an artificial effect. Mendes later called it the soul of the movie. It wasn't special effects, but raw accident. The scene's haunting beauty comes from randomness, not design. What audiences didn't know, the bag footage was filmed weeks before, archived, and almost cut during editing. Only after repeated test screenings did Mendes realize it embodied the film's theme, fragile beauty in ordinary tragedy. 2. Kevin Spacey had to beg for the role. Kevin Spacey wasn't the studio's first or even second choice. DreamWorks executives wanted a bankable star like Tom Hanks or Bruce Willis. Mendes fought hard for Spacey, who was then respected, but not box office gold. Spacey even lowered his asking fee to get the part. Mendes recalled, "They didn't believe audiences would pay to watch Kevin play a suburban dad." Ironically, Spacey's understated performance not only won him the Oscar, but became one of the most celebrated roles of the late 90s. Not X, but Y. It wasn't star power that made American Beauty iconic. It was a gamble on a misfit choice. A gamble that reshaped careers and gave the film its unshakable authenticity. 3. Thora Birch's parents caused chaos on set. Thora Birch, just 16 during filming, had strict guardianship rules. Her parents, especially her father, were notoriously controlling and made filming difficult. The topless scene, where her character rebels, became controversial because her father was present during shooting and reportedly gave approval for it. Mendes later admitted the situation was uncomfortable and strange for everyone. Crew members described the dynamic as toxic, with her father questioning direction and interfering in negotiations. It wasn't teenage rebellion on screen, it was real-life parental domination behind the lens. What audiences didn't see? Birch's raw performance came out of an environment of genuine tension, blurring the line between performance and reality. 4th, Annette Bening went method. Hard. Annette Bening didn't just play Carolyn Burnham, she lived her. To prepare, she shadowed real estate agents, memorizing their cadences and staging techniques. She even sold an actual house during prep to feel the stakes of her character's professional desperation. Mendes remembered her showing up to set with real estate brochures, slipping into sales pitches between takes. The obsessive preparation mirrored Carolyn's fixation with perfection, down to her neurotic cleaning rituals. It wasn't performance. It was embodiment. And when she rehearsed her breakdown scene in front of the mirror, crying, then forcing herself to smile, the crew went silent. They weren't watching acting. They were witnessing psychological excavation. 5. The dinner scene took 3 days to shoot. The tense family dinner, with Lester mocking Carolyn while Jane looks on, appears effortless. In reality, it took 3 full days to capture. Mendes insisted on shooting in long takes to build real discomfort. The actors were ordered to stay in character between takes, eating cold, reheated food repeatedly. Spacey reportedly kept improvising sarcastic lines, forcing Bening into genuine frustration. Mendes later revealed, by the end, they weren't acting. They were tired, irritated, and trapped. Exactly what I wanted. What audiences didn't know. The claustrophobic tension you feel is real exhaustion. The Burnham family wasn't just fictional. They were unraveling in real time on set. 6. The famous rose petal fantasy was purely practical. Angela's dreamlike rose petal scenes weren't CGI at all. Every single pedal was real, hand-selected, and strategically dropped on cue. Mendes refused digital effects, insisting that authenticity mattered for the fantasy sequences. Crew members scattered petals from rigs above while Mena Suvari lay still, covered in layers of silk and flower fragments. The set reeked of roses, overwhelming the air. Suvari admitted later she felt both beautiful and suffocated during the shoot. Not a glossy special effect, but a painstakingly orchestrated ballet of petals, light, and breath. The surreal vision that audiences remember as abstract desire was, in truth, intensely physical and claustrophobic. What looked like a dream was actually a logistical nightmare. 7. Sam Mendes almost got fired. Sam Mendes, making his featured debut, was constantly on the edge of being replaced. DreamWorks executives doubted him, worried that a theater director couldn't handle a multi-million-dollar film. After viewing dailies, some execs even suggested re-editing scenes without Mendes's input. Mendes recalled, "There was a point when I thought I was out." His insistence on stillness, long silences, locked-off shots, clashed with the studio's desire for conventional pacing. Not Hollywood polish, but theatrical minimalism. In the end, Steven Spielberg, who championed Mendes, shielded him from removal. Ironically, the same approach that nearly cost Mendes the job earned him the Academy Award for Best Director. What audiences didn't know, American Beauty was almost shaped by compromise. Instead, it became cinema history. 8. The film originally had a murder trial ending. The ending we know, Lester's sudden death and voiceover reflection, wasn't the first plan. The original script ended with a full murder trial. Jane and Ricky were accused of killing Lester after their videotapes were discovered, leading to a courtroom sequence. Entire scenes were shot, including Ricky testifying. Mendes eventually cut the entire subplot, believing it shifted focus away from Lester's inner transformation. Those deleted reels are still locked away. Not a quiet meditation, but a legal thriller. Had it stayed, the film would have carried a completely different tone. One closer to a crime drama than philosophical tragedy. What audiences didn't know, the movie's most profound statement was born in the editing room. 9. Conrad Hall's lighting changed film history. Cinematographer Conrad Hall's use of shadows became legendary. Hall deliberately lit Lester's world with harsh contrast, bright whites against oppressive darkness, echoing his inner emptiness. The famous shot of Spacey lying in bed, half in shadow, half illuminated, wasn't staged in storyboards. Hall adjusted lights live, using household lamps to sculpt intimacy. His method broke Hollywood convention, trading glossy illumination for painterly texture. Mendes called it painting with darkness. Not glossy Hollywood perfection, but brutal realism wrapped in beauty. Hall later won the Oscar, his third, solidifying his reputation as one of the greatest cinematographers ever. What audiences didn't know, the film's haunting mood wasn't just written. It was painted frame by frame with shadow. 10. The actor who almost played. Ricky Wes Bentley's breakout as Ricky Fitz almost never happened. The role was originally offered to other young actors, including Heath Ledger, who turned it down. Mendes chose Bentley after a chilling audition where he stared silently at the camera for minutes before speaking. Executives resisted, arguing Bentley lacked name recognition. Mendes fought back, saying he had the stillness and danger no one else had. Not a conventional teen role, but a hypnotic presence. Bentley himself admitted he was battling private struggles even then, which bled into Ricky's haunted calm. Go ahead and like and subscribe because the weirdest casting story is still ahead, and it will make you rethink how close this film came to being entirely different. 11. The rain-soaked car scene was real misery. When Lester and Angela sit in the parked car during a heavy rainstorm, Mendes refused to fake the downpour. Instead of studio-controlled rain rigs, they filmed with fire hoses and real water pressure. The car quickly flooded, soaking Kevin Spacey and Mena Suvari through multiple takes. Crew members described the sound as deafening, making dialogue nearly impossible. Suvari admitted she was freezing and exhausted by the end. It wasn't a romantic moment of quiet revelation. It was survival through discomfort. Mendes later said the misery was exactly what he wanted. Angela's seduction suddenly feels awkward and human. What audiences didn't know, The intimacy of that moment was carved out of raw, uncontrollable elements, not Hollywood staging. 12. Kevin Spacey really learned fast food work for Lester's burger flipping scenes. Spacey trained in a real fast food restaurant for several days. Mendes wanted authenticity, so Spacey worked with actual staff, grilling patties and cleaning stations. He joked later, "I could have gotten hired if acting didn't work out." The fluorescent lit set was also dressed with authentic grease, stains, and aged fryers borrowed from a local chain. Not a sanitized Hollywood set, but the sticky reality of minimum wage labor. Mendes' detail-oriented approach paid off. The scenes feel depressingly familiar, grounding Lester's rebellion in the banality of real work. What audiences didn't know: Spacey's midlife breakdown was staged inside a functioning kitchen of exhaustion, sweat, and sizzling grease. 13. The roses almost bankrupted the set. The film's signature roses, whether in Carolyn's manic gardening or Angela's fantasies, weren't cheap. Mendes demanded thousands of real long-stemmed American beauty roses imported daily, not artificial replicas. Production designer Naomi Shohan later revealed the floral budget skyrocketed, nearly blowing apart their design funds. Crew members joked the movie smelled like a funeral parlor because of the constant influx. Not simple props, but expensive symbols bleeding money into every frame. The roses became more than flowers. They were obsessive set dressing, standing for beauty, decay, and desire. What audiences didn't know: every petal on screen was a financial sacrifice. Proof of Mendes' ruthless commitment to symbolism. 14. The film sparked real suburban backlash. Not everyone applauded American Beauty on release. Suburban community groups criticized it fiercely, accusing it of mocking middle-class families. Some real estate organizations even complained about Benning's portrayal, saying it unfairly stereotyped their industry. In screenings, audience reactions divided sharply. Laughter in one town, outrage in another. Mendes recalled, "People would come up to me and say, 'This is my life,' while others would say, 'This is a lie.' Not a safe drama, but a cultural grenade." What audiences didn't know: the movie wasn't universally adored. It fractured American suburbia, forcing viewers to either embrace its mirror or reject it outright. 15. Ricky's videotaping was based on a crew member. The obsessive filming habit of Ricky Fitz came from a real-life inspiration. Alan Ball, the screenwriter, had a friend who constantly filmed everything with a camcorder, saying he wanted to capture beauty before it vanished. Mendes then expanded the quirk, asking crew members to bring in old home videotapes for Bentley to study. Bentley himself carried a camcorder behind the scenes, filming cast and crew to stay in character. Not a quirky invention, but a lived behavior borrowed from real life. What audiences didn't know: Ricky's quiet lens wasn't fiction. It was rooted in authentic obsession, making his view of beauty uncomfortably real. 16. Kevin Spacey did his own weightlifting. Lester's transformation from beaten-down dad to iron-pumping rebel wasn't faked. Kevin Spacey trained with a personal trainer months before filming, bulking up to make his gym scenes authentic. When he bench presses and curls weights in the garage, that's really Spacey's body under strain. No stunt double, no Hollywood tricks. Mendes insisted the audience had to believe Lester's rebirth physically. The routine even continued during shooting, with Spacey lifting between takes to stay pumped. Not makeup, but sweat. Not illusion, but muscle earned in silence. What audiences didn't know: Lester's rebellion was carved into Spacey's body, a literal act of defiance written in flesh and iron. 17. The teen performances shook critics. While Spacey and Benning drew headlines, critics quietly raved about the teenagers. Wes Bentley and Thora Birch carried much of the emotional weight, despite their youth. Mendes treated them like seasoned veterans, giving them long takes and encouraging improvisation. Bentley later confessed Ricky's eerie calm mirrored his own real battles with addiction, while Birch's quiet rebellion was fueled by on-set parental tensions. Not supporting roles, but the heartbeat of the film. Their performances added a layer of raw honesty that made suburban rot believable. What audiences didn't know: without the teens grounding the story, American Beauty would have collapsed into satire instead of aching tragedy. 18. Mendes hid jokes in the background. Eagle-eyed viewers may spot dark humor in the set dressing. Mendes sprinkled ironic details, like Carolyn's motivational tapes labeled "Success is a Choice" beside her handgun, or Lester's cubicle decorated with generic teamwork posters. Even the real estate signs Carolyn plants were designed to look slightly crooked, hinting at her need for control. Not overt gags, but razor-blade satire lurking at the edges of the frame. Mendes wanted audiences to laugh uneasily, then feel guilty for laughing. What audiences didn't know. The film's bleak comedy wasn't just in the script. It was hidden in wallpaper, props, and background clutter, a suburban horror dressed as humor. 19. The shooting schedule. Nearly collapsed with a modest budget of $15 million, American Beauty was shot under brutal constraints. Mendes demanded meticulous framing, which meant days spent on single shots. Executives panicked as delays mounted. At one point, Mendes risked shutdown when he insisted on reshooting Lester's death scene multiple times until the angle felt haunting enough. Crew morale dropped, tempers flared, and Mendes admitted later he thought he'd lost the film. Not a smooth prestige project, but a near disaster that staggered across the finish line. What audiences didn't know. Every polished frame was wrestled from chaos, one battle at a time. 20. The Oscars almost didn't happen by awards season. DreamWorks feared American Beauty was too weird to win big. They debated soft-pedaling the campaign, focusing only on technical categories. But Spielberg personally pushed for an aggressive campaign, believing the film was a generational landmark. The gamble worked. The movie swept 5 Oscars, including Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Actor. Spacey walked on stage and said, "This is the highlight of my career." Not an underdog, but a revolution in disguise. What audiences didn't know. American Beauty almost slipped quietly into cult obscurity, until Hollywood's biggest power broker declared it was the future. Bonus fact: the real murder connection. The film eerily foreshadowed real life. In 2001, 2 years after release, a New Jersey man killed his neighbor in a dispute over a parking space. During his trial, prosecutors revealed he had obsessively quoted lines from American Beauty, identifying with Lester's rebellion. The case drew national headlines, and journalists questioned whether the film had crossed into dangerous cultural influence. Not just art imitating life, but life bending toward art. What audiences didn't know. American Beauty wasn't just a movie. It became a mirror so sharp it cut into reality itself. American Beauty was never just a suburban drama. It was a battlefield of artistic clashes, risky performances, and cultural shockwaves. Behind every rose petal was exhaustion. Behind every laugh was unease. And behind every frame was danger of collapse. 2 decades later, its legacy remains complicated. Part masterpiece, part cultural lightning rod. If you loved uncovering these secrets, hit like, subscribe, and remember, in cinema as in life, beauty is always closer than it appears.